welcome. If you've ever found yourself sitting in a fast-moving conversation between native speakers, catching every word but somehow missing the real meaning, feeling the conversation slip through your fingers like water, then you're exactly where you need to be. I've been there. That dizzying, frustrating feeling is not a sign you've failed. It's the signal you've reached the frontier of true advanced mastery, where textbook English ends and the living, breathing language begins. This is where we move from understanding English to thinking in it. And I promise you, by the end of our time together, that feeling will transform into one of the most exhilarating competencies you possess. My name is your name, and for years I dissected real-world English, the messy, glorious, idiom-packed, accent-strewn, subtext-rich English spoken in boardrooms, at dinner parties, in heated debates, and in whispered confidences. I want to pull back the curtain for you. Today, we start not with a simple audio clip and a worksheet, but with a mindset. Advanced listening is an active, interpretive sport. It's about hearing the symphony, not just the individual notes. Let's begin with our first and most critical layer, the layer of tone and subtext. At the C1, C2 level, what is not said is often louder than what is. A simple phrase like, "Well, that's certainly one way to look at it," can be a genuine acknowledgement or a devastating critique, all hinging on a subtle shift in intonation, a micropause, or the slightest breath. Your first task is to stop listening just for vocabulary. Start listening for music. Listen for the sigh that precedes a difficult point. Listen for the quickening pace of excitement or the deliberate, slowed down words of someone choosing their next move carefully. This layer is where you detect sarcasm, hesitation, genuine enthusiasm, or concealed doubt. It's the bedrock of all real conversation. I'll give you a tool right now. In every conversation you hear from today, identify just one speaker's emotional state based purely on sound. Are they confident, nervous, bored, persuasive? Don't worry about the words yet, just the melody. This single shift in focus will unlock dimensions of understanding you didn't know were there. It turns listening from a decoding task into a human connection. And it's the very first step we'll take together on this journey into the heart of real English. Let's dive into our first simulated real-life audio. Imagine you're overhearing a conversation between two senior colleagues, Alex and Beth, after a high-stakes client meeting. The words are clear, but the true message is in the shadows. Listen closely. Audio sample 1, the post-meeting debrief.
So that was an experience.
It certainly was. They had quite a lot of thoughts.
A veritable avalanche of thoughts, particularly from the gentleman who seemed to believe our entire proposal was, and I quote, a touch naive.
Well, he's never been one to mince words. I found his point about the timeline interesting.
Interesting, yes. A fascinating interpretation of the word feasible.
Now let's rewind and dissect. On the surface, they're discussing a difficult client, but listen to the tone. Alex's pause. So that was an experience. That hesitation isn't searching for a word. It's diplomatic condemnation. He's choosing experience over disaster. Beth matches him. They had quite a lot of thoughts. The pause before thoughts substitutes a harsher word like objections or criticisms. This is professional understatement in action. Then, Alex uses elevated vocabulary, veritable avalanche, and the quoted a touch naive. The hyperformal language here is ironic, a shield for his real frustration. He's signaling to Beth, "Can you believe this guy?" without saying it outright. Beth's response is the masterclass. "I found his point about the timeline interesting." In advanced English, describing something as interesting in that deliberate, flat tone almost always means the opposite. It's unacceptable or foolish. She's using a polite dismissal. The takeaway: at this level, you must become a detective of register and irony. When the language becomes suddenly more formal or littered with polite euphemisms, a touch naive, fascinating interpretation, you're often in the presence of strong disagreement or criticism being smoothed over. The real opinion is in the gap between the formal words and the weary, ironic tone carrying them. Your brain must learn to process both channels simultaneously, the dictionary meaning and the social meaning. This is the core of navigating professional environments. You're not just listening for information. You're listening for alignment, for conflict, for the unspoken alliance between Alex and Beth against the client's criticism. That is advanced listening. Now, let's violently shift gears from the controlled, polished world of professional irony to the chaotic, exhilarating battlefield of casual, native speaker conversation. This is where even advanced learners often feel the ground disappear beneath their feet. The speed, the cultural references, the seemingly nonsensical phrases. It's a different universe. Forget complete sentences. Welcome to the world of ellipsis, interruptions, and co-constructed thoughts. Listen to this snippet between two close friends, Sam and Jamie, planning a weekend. Audio sample 2, the weekend plan.
So, are we thinking the thing on Saturday, or...
Oh, I'm skint, completely rinsed after that concert.
Tell me about it. My wallet's screaming. But Mia said it's meant to be next level.
Yeah? She's usually on the money. Could we just, early one, few pints, bail before it gets pricey?
Sold. Text the group, my shout for the first round.
Did you feel the pace? The assumptions? Let's unpack. Sam doesn't even name the event, the thing on Saturday. This implies shared, pre-established knowledge. Jamie doesn't say, "I have no money." They use the very colloquial skint and rinsed. Your brain must map these instantly. Skint equals broke. Rinsed equals cleaned out of money. Then note the cultural shorthand. She's usually on the money. This idiom, meaning correct, is thrown in casually. The core of the exchange is Jamie's fragmented suggestion. Could we just, early one, few pints, bail before it gets pricey? This is a full, complex plan delivered in keyword fragments. Early one means an early event. Few pints is the activity. Bail means leave. Sam's response, sold, means I agree completely. My shout means it's my turn to pay. The listening skill here is predictive filtering. You're not processing every word as a separate unit. You are grabbing the keywords skint, early, pints, bail, shout, and letting your brain's knowledge of casual schemas, the typical structure of making informal plans, fill in the massive gaps. You must also accept ambiguity. You might not know what the thing is, but you understand its role in the sentence. It's the proposed event. You listen for intent, not perfection. The intent here is negotiation and agreement. This fluid, fragmented dialogue is the heartbeat of informal English. It requires a flexible mind, one that can hold on to meaning even when the grammar seems to have left the building. We've navigated the subtle cues of professional speak and the fragmented chaos of casual plans. Now, we must confront one of the most humbling and vital challenges for the advanced listener: the mosaic of accents and idiolects. Real English isn't spoken in a standardized BBC or CNN broadcast tone. It's a global tapestry woven with the rich, distinctive threads of regional accents, personal speech rhythms, and unique grammatical quirks known as idiolects. Your goal is not to identify every accent perfectly, but to train your ear to remain flexible and absorb meaning from any variation it encounters. Let's listen to a short clip. Imagine you're on a conference call with colleagues from 3 different English-speaking regions. Audio sample 3, the global check-in.
Right, so we're all aligned on the deliverables for the end of play Friday. I'm not hearing any major objections.
Look, the timeline's fair bonza for my team. Weird shockers until Thursday, but we'll get it over the line.
I do appreciate y'all's confidence. We'll need to circle back on the resourcing piece, but for now, I'm on board.
Your brain might have tripped on end of play, bonza, chuckers, get over the line, and else. This is normal. The strategy is contextual anchoring. Don't fixate on the unfamiliar word. Anchor to the words you do understand and the speaker's clear intent. End of play Friday is business jargon meaning by close of business Friday. The Scottish speaker's cadence might blur the words, but the key nouns, deliverables, and Friday are your anchors. The Australian speaker uses slang, bonza, excellent, and chockers, very full/busy. But the surrounding context, timeline's fair for my team, and the pivotal phrase, but we'll get it over the line, complete the task, tells you the essential message. We're busy, but we'll deliver. The American speaker uses the regional contraction, y'alls, you alls, meaning you're plural, and the phrasal verb, circle back. Yet the core sentiment is agreement with a future condition, need to circle back on resourcing. The advanced listening skill here is rapid pattern adjustment. You must allow your ear to recalibrate with each new speaker, accepting their unique phonetic footprint without panic. Focus on the operational words, nouns, verbs, and negations that carry the sentence's backbone. The adjectives and local idioms add color, but the structural meaning is carried by the simpler, more universal terms around them. Listen for agreement, disagreement, conditions, and deadlines. Those are your true anchors in this sea of beautiful variation. You've mastered tone, navigated fragments, and adapted to accents. But there's a hidden layer that can still leave you feeling like an outsider: the world of cultural and historical shorthand. Native speakers don't just communicate with words. They communicate with shared stories, headlines, memes, and historical touchstones. A single name, a film quote, or a referenced event can carry a universe of meaning. Cracking this code is your final frontier. Think of it as the ultimate listening context. When someone says a plan is a real mission, impossible, they're not just saying it's difficult. They're evoking images of complex, high-stakes teamwork against overwhelming odds. When another calls a confusing situation Kafkaesque, they're invoking a specific feeling of bizarre, labyrinthine bureaucracy. These aren't just vocabulary words. They are loaded cultural packages. Let's analyze a dense, reference-packed statement you might hear in a political or cultural discussion. Audio sample 4. The cultural commentary. The whole scandal has this slow-motion Watergate feeling, but playing out in the era of the social network, It's less about a lone, deep-throat source in a car park and more about 1,000 data points leaking from a server somewhere. The characters aren't all the president's men. They're more like extras from Silicon Valley. If you don't recognize the references, this is just a confusing analogy. But listen through the lens of cultural literacy. Watergate, the archetypal political scandal. The Social Network, a film about the creation of Facebook, symbolizing the modern, data-driven era. Deep Throat, the famous secret informant from Watergate. All the President's Men, the film about the investigative journalists. Silicon Valley, a satirical TV show about tech startups. The speaker is doing complex work here. They are saying, this is a major political scandal, Watergate, but its mechanics are modern and tech-centric, the social network. It's not driven by a single whistleblower, deep throat, but by digital data traces. The people involved aren't dramatic, intrepid reporters or shadowy political figures. They're like the awkward, tech-obsessed characters from Silicon Valley. Your advanced listening task is to become a reference detective. When you hear a capitalized name, a famous title, or a well-known phrase, flag it in your mind. You don't need to know the exact details. You need to deduce the conceptual package it represents. Is it a symbol of corruption, Watergate, genius, Einstein, chaos, Pandora's box, or revolution, the Marie Antoinette moment? Use the surrounding words as clues. The speaker compared it to Silicon Valley extras, not heroes. So the reference is likely dismissive or satirical. Start building your own mental library. When you encounter a new reference, look it up later. Ask yourself, what emotion, concept, or era does this typically represent? This turns every movie, book, news article, and historical documentary into active listening training. You're no longer just learning English. You're learning the collective consciousness of the cultures that speak it. We have assembled a powerful toolkit, hearing subtext, decoding fragments, adapting to accents, and unpacking cultural references. Now we arrive at the synthesis. How do you deploy all these skills at once in real time when the pressure is on and you cannot rewind? This is the art of active strategic listening. It's about moving from a passive receiver of sound to an active architect of understanding. Think of your mind as a control room with 4 dials. As a new speaker begins, you adjust them simultaneously. Dial 1, relationship and setting. Are these friends, rivals, colleagues? Formal or informal? This sets your baseline for register. Dial 2, emotional frequency. What is the tone telling you in the first 3 seconds? Hostile, excited, weary? Dial 3, contextual anchor. What are the 2 or 3 key nouns or verbs that form the spine of the topic? Dial 4, reference filter. Is any cultural or historical shorthand being used? You are not doing this slowly. You are training your brain to do this as an instinctive background process. Let's apply this to a final, complex audio simulation. You are walking into a room where a conversation is already in progress. Listen.
Which is why I said it feels like we're trying to boil the ocean here. The brief was vague to begin with, and now with the compliance people doing their 1984 impression, every tiny change requires a 10-page form. It's a recipe for, what's that word?
Sisyphean?
Thank you. Sisyphean, exactly. Pushing a boulder up a hill just to watch it roll back down for a signature.
Your control room would have lit up. Relationship and setting. Colleagues, likely peers in a professional but frustrated context. Emotional frequency. Initial frustration, boil the ocean. Met with wry, intellectual humor, Sisyphean. This is a venting session, but an intellectually aligned one. Contextual anchor. Brief, vague compliance changes form. The core topic is bureaucratic obstacles to a project. Reference filter, critical here. Boil the ocean is a business idiom for an impossible, sprawling task. 1984 impression. References Orwell's novel, implying overly intrusive, authoritarian oversight from compliance. Sisyphean is the key cultural literacy test, from the myth of Sisyphus, meaning a futile, endless task. Notice how the male voice doesn't explain. He offers the precise word, showing shared understanding. The female voice seizes it and elaborates with the bolder metaphor, cementing their alliance. Your advanced listening comprehension here means you didn't just understand the problem. You understood the bond being reinforced through shared intellectual reference. You perceived their mutual, weary solidarity against the faceless compliance people. This is the highest level takeaway. The real conversation is often about strengthening or negotiating relationships, and every layer we've studied is a tool for that. Your listening now captures the social transaction. This brings us to the end of our deep dive, but truly it is just the beginning of yours. We have walked through the layers, from the subtle music of tone to the complex tapestry of cultural code. You now possess the map to the territory of advanced, real-life English listening. Remember, this is not about achieving perfection with every single syllable. It is about building resilience, flexibility, and strategic understanding. Your mission now is conscious practice. You will never listen passively again. Every podcast, every film scene, every overheard conversation in a cafe is your training ground. Listen for the subtext in a politician's speech. Decode the fragmented planning of characters in a drama. Tune your ear to a new accent in a documentary. Hunt for the cultural reference in a comedian's punchline. Do it actively with curiosity. When you hit a wall, and you will when a rapid-fire dialogue or a thick accent momentarily overwhelms you, do not see it as failure. See it as data. Ask yourself, what exactly lost me? Was it the speed? A specific idiom? An unknown proper noun? Isolate it, research it, and turn that gap into a new node in your growing network of comprehension. You have moved from seeing advanced listening as a barrier to recognizing it as a gateway to deeper professional relationships, to truer friendships, to the rich, unvarnished heart of cultures and ideas. This skill is your superpower. It allows you to connect, to analyze, and to belong in ways that transcend vocabulary lists. So, put this into action. Start today. Choose one conversation, one short clip, and listen through just one of the lenses we built together. Then another. The journey to mastery is a continuous, fascinating loop of listening, analyzing, and integrating. You're no longer just a student of the language. You are an active participant in its endless living conversation. Thank you for your focus and commitment. This is your name signing off. Go listen to the world. Let's push further into a realm that often remains opaque, understanding nuanced humor and sarcasm. This is the zenith of advanced listening because it requires the instantaneous integration of everything we've learned: tone, context, cultural shorthand, and relationship cues. When humor lands, it creates connection. When you miss it, the feeling of isolation is profound. My goal is to ensure you land on the connection side. Humor in English, especially among native speakers, is often less about jokes and more about shared perspective. It's the quick, subtle twist of expectation, the deliberate understatement, or the playful exaggeration that signals we see the world the same way. Sarcasm is its sharper cousin, often relying on a vocal tone that directly contradicts the literal words. Let's train your ear to catch the signal. Listen to this exchange between two friends watching a predictable movie. Audio sample 6, the sarcastic review.
Oh, brilliant. The car keys were in the sun visor the whole time.
I am shocked.
Truly a narrative masterpiece. Who could have possibly foreseen that the quirky best friend would end up being the romantic lead?
I know. It's almost like we've never seen a film before.
The words are positive, brilliant, shocked, masterpiece. But the meaning is the opposite. How do you know? First, the tone. Person A's "oh, brilliant" is likely delivered flatly or with a heavy, knowing emphasis. The word shocked is stretched or given a deadpan delivery. Second, the context. They are watching a cliched movie. Third, the exaggeration. Phrases like narrative masterpiece and who could have possibly foreseen are too grand for the silly plot point, creating irony. The advanced skill is recognizing the linguistic cue of overstatement. When the language becomes oddly formal, excessively praising, or uses hyperbolic adjectives for mundane things, sarcasm is likely at play. The final sigh and the meta comment, "it's almost like we've never seen a film before," confirms it. They are bonding over their shared recognition of the cliché. Now, let's contrast that with dry wit. Listen.
The printer's broken again. It's decided it only prints in shades of mauve.
How thoughtful! It's bringing a touch of avant-garde artistry to the quarterly reports.
This isn't sarcasm, it's wit. The humor lies in reframing a nuisance as a creative choice. The tone is likely earnest, not flat. The cue is incongruity, placing a grandiose concept, avant-garde artistry, next to a boring object, quarterly reports. The listening key is to spot the deliberate, playful mismatch of registers. You're not listening for a contradiction between tone and word, but for a clever, unexpected association. It's a sign of intelligence and camaraderie. Missing the joke means missing the offer of social alignment. Catching it, even just with a smile, means you're in. Now we must address a domain where listening precision is paramount: decoding persuasion and rhetorical strategy. At the C2 level, you're not just a participant in conversations. You are an analyst of influence. Whether in a boardroom pitch, a political speech, or a fundraising appeal, speakers use sophisticated auditory tools to persuade, convince, and sway. Your ability to dissect these tools in real time empowers you to understand the true message, not just the presented one. This involves listening for structure, repetition, and strategic emotion. Persuasive speech is often architecturally sound. Let's examine a segment from a startup founder's pitch to potential investors. Audio sample 7. The investment pitch. Look at the current market. It's fragmented. It's inefficient. It's crying out for a unified solution. Pause. Our platform isn't just another app. It's the missing link. It's the key that unlocks seamless integration for millions of frustrated users. Voice becomes quieter, more confidential. Now I'll be honest. The journey to get here wasn't easy. There were nights we thought the code would never come together. But that struggle is why we're so resilient. And that resilience is exactly what your investment will be betting on. Not just on an idea, but on a proven team that knows how to overcome impossible obstacles. Listen to the rhythm of repetition. The triple repetition, it's fragmented, it's inefficient, it's crying out. This is called tripling, a classic rhetorical device that makes a point feel complete, memorable, and truthful. He then repeats the structure with "it's the missing link," "it's the key." Next, notice the strategic shift in tone and volume. The confident, declarative statements give way to a quieter, more honest admission of struggle. This is not a sign of weakness. It's a calculated tool. It builds ethos, credibility, and pathos, emotional connection. He transforms a potential negative, the difficult journey, into a proof point, our resilience. Finally, he directly links the investor's capital to this narrative. Your investment will be betting on a proven team. He's selling a story, not just a product. The advanced listener identifies the emotional arc the speaker is constructing. Problem, big, painful, dash solution, heroic, unique, dash journey, difficult but validating, dash invitation, join this heroic mission. Your task is to listen like a strategist. When you hear a list of 3, recognize it as a persuasion flag. When the tone shifts to a personal anecdote, ask, what quality is this story meant to demonstrate? Trustworthiness, grit, innovation. When you hear a direct address, your investment, recognize the call to action. This allows you to separate compelling narrative from hard data, a critical skill for making informed decisions in English-speaking professional and academic environments. Having deconstructed persuasion, we must now equip you for one of the most intellectually demanding listening environments, the rapid-fire exchange of ideas. Think of academic debates, tech summits, or strategic brainstorming sessions. Here, the pace is relentless. The ideas are abstract, and speakers build upon, nuance, or challenge each other's points in real time. The goal is not just to follow, but to track the evolving contour of the argument itself. This requires a shift from linear listening to architectural listening. You are no longer just processing sentences. You are mapping a mental diagram of claims, evidence, and counterpoints. Key linguistic signals become your guideposts. Let's immerse ourselves in a simulated segment from a panel on artificial intelligence. Audio sample 8, the panel debate.
So, is the current trajectory of LLMs leading us to artificial general intelligence or merely to very sophisticated pattern matching?
I'd argue it's a fundamental misdirection. The scaling hypothesis suggests more data and parameters lead to emergent abilities, but that's conflating scale with understanding. There's no evidence of a true internal model of the world.
I take your point about internal models, but isn't that setting the bar impossibly high? If a system can reliably simulate understanding across countless domains, philosophy, code, law, does the distinction between simulation and the real thing even matter pragmatically?
It matters entirely for robustness and safety. A system that doesn't comprehend cause and effect can generate plausible but dangerously wrong outcomes. We've seen this already.
Listen for the argumentative markers. Panelist A doesn't just disagree. He frames his point with, "I'd argue it's a fundamental misdirection." This signals a strong, conceptual counterthesis. He introduces a term, the scaling hypothesis, and immediately critiques it, conflating scale with understanding. Panelist B uses a crucial phrase, "I take your point, but this acknowledges the previous argument before challenging its premise." She then shifts the criterion from understanding to pragmatic utility, pivoting the debate's terms. The core of this exchange is the clash of frameworks. Panelist A operates on a true understanding framework. Panelist B operates on a practical simulation framework. Your advanced listening task is to identify these competing frameworks as they emerge, not get lost in the technical terms, LLMs, scaling hypothesis. The terms are important, but the fault line between the speakers is more so. Your strategy here is listening for the pivot. When you hear but, however, yet, that misses a key point, or I reframe the question, a pivot is happening. The speaker is changing the lens. Mentally label it, we are now debating practicality versus theoretical truth. This allows you to stay oriented even if the vocabulary is dense. You are listening to the structure of the thought, which provides a scaffold to hang the complex terminology upon. This skill transforms overwhelming intellectual discourse into a navigable and deeply fascinating landscape of clashing ideas. From the conceptual clashes of a panel debate, we descend into the trenches of specialized domains, where language becomes precise and often impenetrable tool. This is the challenge of specialized jargon and technical language. Whether it's medicine, law, software development, or academia, each field has its own lexicon. The advanced listener's task is not to become an expert in each field, but to develop strategies for navigating these lexical thickets without losing the thread of the core communication. The key lies in distinguishing between essential operational terms and ambient jargon. The former is critical to understanding the action or decision. The latter fills in professional detail, but may not change the fundamental point. Your goal is to extract the former and not panic over the latter. Listen to this simulated exchange between two software developers. Audio sample 9, the technical triage.
The bugs in the API layer. The authentication middleware is throwing a 401 because the JWT tokens aren't being validated against the new public key after the rollover.
Right. So the key rotation on the KMS side didn't propagate to the consumer service. Its cache is still using the old key. We need to flush its cache and maybe add a hook to listen for key changed events to avoid this next time.
If you're not a developer, words like middleware, JWT, KMS, rollover are daunting. But let's use our strategies. First, listen for the problem-solution structure. Dev 1 states a problem, bug, throwing a 401. Dev 2 agrees and proposes actions, flush cache, add a hook. You've grasped the essential transaction. Second, identify the core nouns and verbs that anyone would understand. Bug authentication, tokens, validated, key, cache. String them together. There's a bug with authentication. Tokens aren't validated with a new key. A cache needs clearing. You've captured the operational essence. Third, use context to guess the rest. 401 is clearly an error code. Propagate likely means spread to. Hook is a metaphorical term for a trigger. The ambient jargon colors the conversation with professional precision, but the actionable core is communicated with more universal words. The advanced skill is tiered comprehension. You accept that you will understand the conversation at different levels. At level 1, you get the gist. They fixed an authentication problem by updating a cached key. At level 2, you understand the mechanics. A key rotation caused token validation to fail until a cache was flushed. At level 3, you get all the acronyms. 4. Cross-disciplinary work. Level 2 is often perfectly sufficient. This tiered approach prevents shutdown and allows you to ask precise, intelligent questions. So the issue was the cache not updating after the key rotation? This demonstrates comprehension of the process, not just the words, and is the hallmark of a truly advanced listener operating in specialized environments. We've conquered technical monologues and followed complex debates. Now we must prepare for the auditory storm of multi-party, fast-paced social dialogues. This is the ultimate test of your real-time processing. A dinner party, a networking event, or a family gathering where conversations overlap. Topics pivot wildly, and you must not only follow but find a moment to contribute. Here, listening is a dynamic social navigation. The challenge is acoustic and contextual. You must filter background noise, separate voices, and track shifting subjects, all while interpreting social cues about when to speak. The skill shifts from deep analysis to agile conversational mapping. Let's simulate a snippet from a lively group dinner. Audio sample 10, the dinner party crosstalk.
So we completely missed the last fairy, which meant...
The Wonder Capri? No way, we did that too.
Is this the annual Missed Fairy Club?
Can someone pass the salt? And the story.
We were. The strike, right?
Yes, the transport strike. I knew it.
This is chaos with a structure. Your brain must instantly perform speaker differentiation, identifying unique vocal timbres. Sarah's higher pitch, Mark's deeper tone. Then you practice topic threading. The core topic is a shared travel mishap. Despite the interruptions, the thread holds. Missed fairy dash Capri-Naples-transport strike. The interjection, pass the salt, is a momentary unrelated branch. The advanced strategies here are twofold. First, listen for the pivot back. Notice how Sarah skillfully retrieves the main thread after the interruption. But wait, Mark, were you in Naples? This is a classic reorienting phrase. Second, listen for the collaborative completion. Mark overlaps not to hijack, but to connect. The one to Capri? No way. We did that too. This is a sign of engaged, co-constructed storytelling, not rudeness. Your role in such an environment is to use these moments of connection as your anchor. If you lose the thread, don't try to rewind mentally. Listen for the next question or a summary phrase like Chloe's Mist Fairy Club. These often crystallize the current topic. Use the social laughter and agreements as guideposts. They signal shared understanding you can align with. Preparing for this environment means listening to recorded group conversations like panel discussions or talk shows, and purely focusing on tracking who is talking about what and how the topic jumps. This builds the mental agility to not just survive, but actively participate in the beautiful, chaotic symphony of a natural English-speaking social group. We've navigated the intellectual and the chaotic. Now, we must venture into the most delicate terrain of all, the nuance of emotional conversations. This is listening not for information, argument, or social alignment, but for feeling. At the advanced level, you must discern between frustration and sadness, between genuine joy and polite enthusiasm, and hear the vulnerability hidden beneath a layer of strength. This is where listening becomes an act of empathy, and the clues are often in the breaks, the breaths, and the words not chosen. I remember once a colleague told me, "The project is going fine, really. We're on top of it." The words were confident, but the slight delay before fine, the almost imperceptible sigh wrapped within really, and the hollow quality of on top of it told a different story, one of overwhelming stress veiled by professionalism. This is emotional subtext. Let's listen for it. Audio sample 11, the personal update.
So, how are you settling into the new city?
It's good. It's a big adjustment, lots to figure out. But the apartment is great, and people at work seem really nice.
You sound a bit...
No, it's all good. Just tired from the move, I think.
The primary information is positive. Good apartment, nice people. The emotional truth is in the pacing and the qualifiers. The pause before good undermines the word. The phrase, a big adjustment, is a neutral container for many unsaid difficulties. The most telling part is the interrupted question, "You sound a bit," and friend B's quick deflection. No, it's all good. The deflection itself, the rushed reassurance, confirms there is something more lurking beneath the surface. Loneliness, doubt, or overwhelm. Contrast this with a moment of genuine, quiet emotion. Audio sample 12, the professional disappointment.
I got the feedback from the committee about the lead role.
And?
They went with an internal candidate, someone with more direct experience in the sector.
I see. I know how much you wanted that.
Yeah, I did. I thought my proposal was strong, but I understand their reasoning.
Here, the emotion is disappointment, but it's managed. The clues are in the controlled delivery. The steady, Soft voice indicates effort to maintain composure. The careful phrasing "they went with" shows a measured release of difficult news. The simple, understated admission, "Yeah, I did," carries more weight than any dramatic outburst. The advanced listener hears the restraint and recognizes the dignity in it, understanding that the speaker is choosing to focus on the professional. I understand their reasoning, while acknowledging the personal letdown. The skill is to listen past the content words to the quality of the voice. A slight tremble, a forced brightness, a studied calm. These are the true carriers of meaning in emotional exchanges. You are listening for the crack in the vocal armor, not for the armor itself. This requires quiet focus and a suspension of the urge to immediately solve or reply. You are listening to understand the human being, not just the message. It is the deepest, most respectful form of listening, and it will transform your most important relationships conducted in English. After exploring the emotional landscape, we must sharpen our focus on a critical, practical application, listening for action and instruction in high-stakes environments. This is the difference between hearing a directive and truly comprehending the sequence, priority, and implicit constraints within it. In fields like aviation, healthcare, project management, or even during complex event planning, the cost of a listening error escalates dramatically. Here, clarity is paramount, but it is often delivered under pressure, through specialized frameworks and with an expectation of immediate, accurate execution. The key is to recognize the architecture of instruction. This involves identifying the goal, the sequential steps, the conditional clauses, if then, and the explicit or implicit priorities. Listen to this simulation of a project manager delegating during crisis. Audio sample 13. The crisis management brief. Okay, listen up. Our immediate goal is to contain the client's data exposure. Jamie, I need you to immediately revoke the compromised API keys from the dashboard. All of them, not just the ones from today. Then, force a logout across all user sessions. Simultaneously, Taylor, you will draft the initial incident notification for legal review. Do not send it until I give the green light. Meanwhile, I will liaise with the cloud provider to isolate the affected segment. Our priority is client trust, so accuracy is more urgent than speed on the communication front. Taylor, acknowledge when that draft is ready. Jamie, confirm key revocation and session reset are complete. Clear. This is a masterclass in instructional clarity. Let's dissect it. The speaker first states the ultimate goal: contain the client's data exposure. This provides the why, framing all subsequent actions. Instructions are then parsed by person and sequence. Note the temporal markers. Immediately, then simultaneously, until, meanwhile. These words create the timeline in your mind. Critically, listen for the conditional and prioritization statements. Do not send it until I give the green light is a conditional constraint. Accuracy is more urgent than speed on the communication front is a prioritization that clarifies potential conflict. Finally, the call for closed-loop communication, acknowledge, confirm, is a safety net, ensuring the listening was accurate. Your advanced task in such environments is active verification through mental restatement. As you listen, you are silently structuring. Goal: contain exposure. Jamie steps: 1. Revoke keys. 2. Force logout. Taylor's task: draft note, wait for send approval. My task: liaise with provider. Priority: accurate messaging over fast messaging. You are building a checklist in real time. This mental model allows you to ask precise, clarifying questions if needed. Should Taylor wait for your go-ahead even after legal approves? Rather than a generic, can you repeat that? This skill transforms you from a passive recipient into a reliable actor. It requires intense focus on process nouns, revocation, logout, notification, isolation, and sequence adverbs, first, then, simultaneously meanwhile. Practice by listening to procedural podcasts or instructional videos and verbally summarizing the steps afterwards. You are training your brain to capture not just ideas, but executable workflows, which is the pinnacle of functional, advanced listening comprehension. We have journeyed through the intricate layers of advanced listening, from the subtle harmonics of tone to the architectural comprehension of rapid-fire debate. Now, we arrive at our final synthesizing principle: listening as a continuous state of engaged curiosity. The ultimate goal is not to achieve a perfect score on a test, but to cultivate a mindset where listening is your default state of connection with the English-speaking world. It is a conscious, lifelong practice of leaning in. Think back to that feeling I described at the very beginning, the conversation slipping like water through your fingers. That sensation dissipates when you stop trying to catch everything and start participating in the flow. You're not an outsider straining to decode a foreign signal. You are an active participant in a shared human activity, using your ever-growing toolkit to build understanding, moment by moment. Let's perform a final, integrated exercise. I will play a short, complex clip that incorporates multiple elements we've studied. Your task is not to analyze each one separately, but to simply understand the speaker's core message and emotional intent. Listen. Audio sample 14, the integrated monologue. And so when I look back at that decision to leave the stable job, people called it brave, but in the moment it felt less like bravery and more like a default setting. Like my only logical move. The path ahead was shrouded in fog, absolutely. But the path behind me, it had just vanished. Soft laugh. It's funny how necessity crystallizes your vision. You start listening to a different voice, not the one listing pros and cons, but the one that just quietly says this way. And you realize the advanced listening you needed wasn't to the market trends or the advice, but to that whisper you'd been trying to talk over for years. What did you hear? Beyond the words, you likely heard reflection, metaphor, shrouded in fog, vanished path, crystallizes vision, and a pivot in the meaning of listening itself, from external to internal. The tone was not regretful, but resolved and insightful. The core message is about intuitive decision-making and self-trust. You understood that by processing the imagery, the tonal shifts from uncertainty shrouded in fog to clarity crystallizes and the philosophical redefinition of a key term. You listened holistically. This is your new baseline. Carry this engaged curiosity into every interaction. Listen to podcasts not just for content, but for the host's rhetorical tricks. Watch films not just with subtitles, but for the regional accents and the subtext and pauses. Listen to disagreements, not to pick a side, but to map the argumentative structure. Your brain has been trained to see the matrix. You now possess the most sophisticated tool for connection, an ear finely tuned to meaning, emotion, and nuance. This skill will deepen your relationships, advance your career, and open up worlds of culture and knowledge. The journey does not end here. It simply becomes more interesting because you are no longer just learning the language. You are listening to life through it. Thank you for your dedicated listening.